Hello and welcome to WION World is One. You're watching Gravitas. Me, Hem Kaur Saroya. Let's get started. Here's what we've lined up for you on the show tonight. With Trump all set to return to the White House in January, what are some of the day one items on the agenda? What will a Trump presidency mean not just for America but for the world? We will bring you the 6 Trump decisions that are likely to impact the global landscape. Stay tuned for that. Also, Kamala Harris's loss, despite widespread backing from Hollywood A-listers, it's brought into focus the impact of, or lack thereof, of celebrity endorsements. We will bring you that report in a few minutes. Political wrangling and turmoil continues in Bangladesh. We will bring you all the latest from Bangladesh on Gravitas tonight. All this and lots more on the show. Let's begin. All right, let's get right into it. While some Americans are still coming to terms with the idea of a second non-consecutive Trump presidency, the view from outside America is only one. What does another Trump presidency mean for the rest of the world? What's his master plan, especially at a time when the world is on fire? And I ask these questions because the decisions he takes as the 47th president of the United States, it has the potential to reshape the world as we know it. So what will he do? What is his foreign policy? While Trump has offered few foreign policy specifics, he has made some statements here and there. He has issued warnings and promised to end wars. Will he make good on his promises? That's what we will explore tonight. Here are the 6 decisions that Trump could take. Decisions that could drastically change the world. All right, let's start with Ukraine. How Trump responds to Russia-Ukraine war, it could set the tone for his agenda. It will signal how he will deal with NATO and key US allies. Trump has signaled that he plans to talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin, something that outgoing President Joe Biden refused to do. Already there are reports suggesting that Trump may call on European and British troops to enforce an 800-mile buffer zone between Russian and Ukrainian armies. This could reportedly be part of a plan to freeze the war between the two countries. This plan would entail the freezing of the current front line and Ukraine agreeing to shelve its ambition to join NATO for 20 years. In exchange, the United States would reportedly pump Ukraine full of weapons to deter Russia from restarting the war. In this plan, the United States would neither contribute troops to patrol or enforce the resulting buffer zone nor finance its mission. Remember, Trump had promised to end the war in 24 hours. If true, would Ukraine agree to it? Remember, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has said that any attempt to make peace by appeasing Russia would mean suicide for Europe. Could Trump persuade Zelensky to accept a deal? It's too soon to say. Details of this purported plan are not clear, but it is one of the several plans reportedly being considered by Trump. Ukrainian president has congratulated Trump on social media platform X. He's described Trump's peace through strength approach as a quote-unquote principle that can practically bring just peace in Ukraine closer. Last year, Trump said that Putin would have never invaded Ukraine in 2022 if he had been in the White House. He said he could solve the war in 24 hours. However, he's not said how he would do so. After Ukraine, the other war zone should be on priority for Trump. Trump will be confronting a volatile West Asia. Israel is fighting wars in Gaza and Lebanon while facing off against its arch-enemy Iran. This even as Yemen's Houthis fire on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. Trump has expressed support for Israel's fight to destroy Hamas, but has also said that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu must finish the job quickly. Remember, now Netanyahu is a Trump ally. He is widely believed to have favored Trump's return to power. Many have asked whether Trump would give Israel a freer hand in the war. Trump is expected to continue arming Israel. He has said that Israel's existence would have been endangered if Harris had been elected. A claim quickly dismissed by the Biden administration given its staunch support for Israel. On the flip side, new reports suggest that Trump will revise the 2020 peace plan on Palestine. The Israeli-Palestinian peace plan advanced by Trump during his first term will likely be back on the table when he returns to office. What is the peace plan, you ask? Now, in 2020, Trump had proposed to give Israel most of what it has sought over decades of conflict, while offering Palestinians the possibility of a state with limited sovereignty. Trump's plan would guarantee that Israel would control a unified Jerusalem as its capital, not require it to uproot any of the settlements in the West Bank, since it would have provoked Palestinian outrage and alienated much of the world. Trump had also promised to provide $50 billion in international investment to build the new Palestinian entity and open an embassy in its new state. He said that this vision presents a win-win opportunity for both sides and a realistic two-state solution that involves the risk of Palestinian statehood to Israel's security, which resolves it. What happened to that plan? It was swiftly rejected by the Palestinian Authority, but Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had welcomed it, not without reservations though. A lot has changed since Trump proposed this peace plan 4 years ago. Could it still come into play? That's the question. Again, too soon to say. Another decision that could impact America and the rest of the world is Trump's policy on immigration. For those wanting to migrate to America, caution is advised. Migrants could now face increased expulsions. You see, Trump's most aggressive promise has been the rounding up and deportation of millions of undocumented immigrants. Expect Trump to come into office with a series of executive orders already written to reinstate border policies. U.S. immigration policy is a controversial topic. So controversial that the United States Congress has been unable to pass meaningful reform for decades. How will Trump go about closing the U.S. borders? Will it include the U.S. military? Will it include the National Guard, or will it require local law enforcement agencies? All this is unclear at the moment. But Trump's advisor, Stephen Miller, has said on Fox News that deportations will begin the moment Trump is in office. That's on the 20th of January, 2025. And next is the topic of tariffs. Trump has said he plans to install a blanket tariff of about 10 to 20% on all imports. For Trump, a sweeping tariff policy will kill two birds with one stone. But economists say that such a plan would have the effect of raising prices on everyday goods. He also wants to impose additional tariffs of about 60 to 100% on Chinese goods. In the September presidential debate, Trump described his plan as a way to extract money from America's rivals. Also, during his campaign, Trump has talked about taking a tougher stance towards China. He suggested that he would ramp up tariffs on Chinese goods as part of a broader effort that could also hit products from the European Union. Many economists say such moves would sow global financial instability, but Trump has threatened to go further than his first term, when his decisions about China plunged the world's two biggest economies into a trade war. Just like his last term, Trump has presented mixed signals on China. On one hand, he has described Chinese President Xi Jinping as brilliant for ruling with an iron fist. On the other hand, he has claimed that if he were president, China would never dare to invade Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its own. At the same time, Trump has also insisted that Taiwan should pay the United States for defense. Next up is Trump's decision on women's reproductive rights. Trump's victory in an election in which abortion rights were a key focus raises big questions about what might come next for abortion in the United States. During the final stages of his campaign, Trump said that he thought states should determine their own abortion policies, but his position on the issue has varied. In an interview in March, he showed support for a nationwide ban on abortions after 15 weeks gestation. As president, he supported a House bill that would have banned abortion nationwide after 20 weeks. During his 2016 campaign, Trump pledged to appoint Supreme Court justices who could help overturn Roe v. Wade. As president, he accomplished that goal and has at times boasted about it as well. Meanwhile, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has suggested that he would support a national law limiting abortion. More recently, though, he has adopted Trump's stance on letting states decide. And so, because of these inconsistencies, it's not clear which direction Trump would go. There is no clear roadmap for the future of abortion in a second Trump administration. Now, lastly, Trump may resume talks with North Korea. Donald Trump has long touted his relationship with North Korea's supreme leader Kim Jong-un, but this time he will find a North Korean leader emboldened by an expanded missile arsenal and a much closer relationship with Russia. Remember, after trading threats of nuclear annihilation during the first year of Trump's first term, Kim Jong-un and Trump held 3 meetings in Singapore, in Hanoi, and at the border between North and South Korea in 2018 and then in 2019. While at the time many welcomed the reduction in tensions between US and North Korea, but those meetings eventually stalled and failed to achieve lasting changes in North Korea. Outgoing President Joe Biden has also not been able to entice or pressure Pyongyang back to talks. And so, since Trump last met with Kim, North Korea has greatly expanded its arsenal of massive intercontinental ballistic missiles as well as hypersonic missiles and short-range weapons. Weapons that could deliver nuclear warheads against the US mainland or military bases in the region. Pyongyang has also reopened its nuclear testing site. According to American and South Korean officials, North Korea stands ready to resume nuclear tests whenever Kim gives the go-ahead. Just this year, North Korea signed a mutual defense treaty with Russia. It took the unprecedented step of dispatching thousands of troops to assist Russia in its war against Ukraine. Russia has backed North Korea by providing oil and other imports. This is a new world that Trump is facing. Will he pursue new meetings with Kim? If yes, how far can Trump make it work in America's favor? North Korea, Ukraine, China, Iran, other hotspots are all interconnected to an extent unheard of during the first Trump administration. This poses a new challenge for a new Trump administration. Ultimately, these are decisions that could change, alter and reshape the world order. That's a tall order to fill. They're all on Trump's table when he takes office, and all eyes are on what the 47th President of the United States of America will do. Now, the return of Donald Trump as US President is more than just a victory for a political figure. It's perhaps a reminder to America's European allies that the days of American protection on Europe's terms may just be over and no longer a certainty. As per reports, with Trump's return, Europe faces a choice. It either builds a solid defense of its own or risks being left vulnerable. Now, why are we saying this? Because back in his first term, Trump reportedly made it clear that NATO countries must spend over and above their 2% GDP towards defense and rely less on US military for aid. As per reports, for too long, many European nations have sidestepped these obligations, reportedly comfortable in the belief that US support was guaranteed. But Trump's win reportedly signals the end of those assumptions. And Europe's leaders are reportedly scrambling to prepare for a new partnership with the United States that may no longer be on their terms. As per reports, at the European Political Community Summit held in Hungary's capital Budapest on Thursday, over 50 European leaders reportedly gathered, openly discussing the need for a stronger, self-sufficient defense mechanism for Europe. As per reports, they spoke with cautious optimism about Trump's return, but knew that relying on Washington as before could no longer be the default strategy. And this is exactly what French President Emmanuel Macron said. Listen to this.
Donald Trump was elected by the American people, and he's going to defend the interest of the Americans. And that's legitimate, and that's a good thing. The question is, are we ready to defend the interests of Europeans?
As Macron just said, it's no longer about asking what America will do for Europe, but what Europe must now do for itself. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán had something similar to say. Listen to this.
There was an agreement that Europe should take greater responsibility for its own peace and security in the future, and even more directly, that we should not expect the Americans to protect us.
As per reports, Mark Rutte, the newly appointed NATO Secretary General, told European leaders that Europe needs to boost its military investments. Quote unquote, regardless of who the American president is. You see this kind of rhetoric from European leaders, it's a striking shift. And perhaps a signal that Trump's re-election is already having an impact in Europe. The truth may just be that Europe can no longer rely on the United States to bear the burden of NATO's security. As per reports, Trump's hard stance during his first presidency pushed some NATO countries to spend over the 2% GDP expenditure line. As per reports, currently 23 of NATO's 32 members have managed to meet the 2% threshold. According to experts, Trump has a clear view on this issue. NATO countries pay up or defend themselves, and Europe's concerns don't stop just there. As per reports, Trump's unpredictable policies, from tariffs to threats of NATO withdrawal, leave Europe vulnerable, not only economically but militarily. Furthermore, Trump's admiration for Russian President Vladimir Putin and his stance on Ukraine, like stating that Ukraine war does not serve any interests for Americans, have reportedly sparked fears about what his leadership might mean for European stability. And this, as per experts, has left European nations in a bind. Can they trust the United States to protect their interests, or must they now take a stand? Are they truly prepared for a leader whose policies may tilt dramatically towards isolation? As per reports, Charles Michel, the European Council president, said that Europe must become masters of their own destiny, not because of Trump alone, but for future generations. Now, what does all of this mean for Europe's future? As per reports, efforts are underway to quote-unquote Trump-proof support for Ukraine and broader European defense. For instance, NATO has recently taken over the Ukraine Contact Group, which coordinates assistance for Ukraine's defense. And NATO countries have reportedly pledged nearly $43 billion for Ukraine next year. A substantial commitment. But will it be enough? Especially if Trump pressures Europe to handle the Russia-Ukraine war without the United States. Moreover, European officials are reportedly bracing for a possible economic fallout. As per reports, Trump has already hinted at the potential for a trade war, and the EU is reportedly working towards a response plan. Reportedly, in anticipation of tariffs, they've prepared countermeasures, including reciprocal tariffs on US goods. But how sustainable is an economic standoff when Europe's security may depend on US support? Could the continent face a lose-lose scenario where economic resilience and military reliance collide? It's a question experts said should ideally lead to unity across Europe. But you see, unity is far from guaranteed. As per reports, domestic political weakness in both France and Germany add another layer of complexity. Experts said that if Europe's largest economies are struggling to maintain stability, then any cohesive, unified response could falter under pressure, adding that Europe needs to confront a question it has long tried to ignore. How do they handle a United States that might see Europe as more of a competitor than an ally? Without clear and immediate steps, Europe may find itself more divided than ever, precisely when it needs collective action the most. Then there's the unpredictability of Trump himself. Many analysts believe his return to power, especially with Republicans gaining a majority in Congress, could bolster him further. According to analysts, Trump might see NATO simply as a business client rather than a political ally. Europe's path forward is unclear. The continent risks being left out in the cold, especially at a time when self-reliance may be its only safeguard. days since the US presidential election, there is one question that has emerged as a topic of conversation and for some a topic that requires deeper examination. From Taylor Swift to Beyonce to George Clooney, Kamala Harris had the backing of a motley group of Hollywood and industry A-listers. Clearly, despite enjoying the support of tens of millions of people, they failed to win Harris the votes that she needed. So is it safe to say then that celebrity influence is not the golden ticket everyone was hoping for it to be? Let's examine this. Kamala Harris's decisive loss in the US presidential election underscores a growing sentiment that celebrity endorsements may hold limited sway with voters, particularly on political choices in today's polarized landscape. Despite last-minute efforts by Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez and other high-profile figures rallying for Harris, the entertainment industry's support proved ineffective. In contrast, Donald Trump and the Republicans who received limited Hollywood backing triumphed by appealing to a different celebrity subset, one aligned with rugged, hyper-masculine ideals. Figures like UFC President Dana White, golfer Bryson DeChambeau and tech magnate Elon Musk form the core of Trump's star support, with the president-elect giving a special nod to their influence during his victory speech as well. Experts suggest this shift resonated with voters drawn to cultural symbols of strength and masculinity. As per New York University arts professor Lawrence Malson, I'm quoting here, "At the end of the day, people probably realize that Beyonce and George Clooney do not have to worry about the cost of gas or the cost of eggs." Experts believe that while celebrity endorsements might spur civic engagement, they rarely dictate voting outcomes. As per research from the Arizona State University, in fact, family, friends, and personal values outweigh star power. In voter decisions, a sentiment supported by polling data that showed that Swift's endorsement of Harris even drove some voters away. Now, as per a poll from YouGov shortly after Swift's endorsement, it found that only 8% of the voters would be somewhat or much more likely to vote for Harris, with a surprising 20% saying the endorsement actually made them less likely to vote for her. However, as I mentioned earlier, celebrity endorsements do encourage overall civic engagement. After all, Swift's endorsement alone, it reportedly led to over 400,000 individuals to voter registration. That being said, the ultimate impact on voting outcomes, that remains uncertain as voters grow skeptical of the Hollywood elite. The Democrats' reliance on celebrity endorsements, it may require a shift towards more relatable and grounded messaging, especially when facing candidates tapping into deeply cultural and personal symbols of identity. All right, and then Donald Trump may intervene in Britain's plan to hand over the Charcoal Islands to Mauritius due to concerns about US security and the strategic importance of the region. As per reports, with Trump set to return to the White House, senior Republican members have warned that transferring the islands from UK to Mauritius could open doors for China's influence to expand in the Indian Ocean, a move they reportedly view as a threat to American interests. These Republicans reportedly raised an alarm ever since the deal was announced last month. They argue that this agreement could compromise US military operations in the area, particularly at the Diego Garcia military base located within Chagos Islands. As per reports, Diego Garcia has been an essential hub for US naval and air power, located strategically in the Indian Ocean, and many in Washington want to keep it that way. As per reports, Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK and a known Trump ally, has also voiced disapproval within Trump's inner circle regarding this matter. Additionally, pro-Brexit figures in the UK, they are reportedly advising Trump on legal grounds against the handover, claiming that it is unwise for Britain to relinquish control over the archipelago. They argue that the islands hold strategic significance and that ceding them could undermine Western dominance in the region, especially with China's growing influence. As per reports, while the Biden administration supported UK's agreement with Mauritius, Trump's potential objection, it raises questions about whether this transition will move forward as planned. As per reports, any resistance from Trump could complicate final negotiations, which are still ongoing. Now, reportedly, this treaty required to solidify this transfer is still in draft form, and if Trump's opposition becomes vocal, it may block or delay the formal handover of the Chagos Islands, which consists of about 60 small islands sitting in the Indian Ocean close to Southeast Asia. They hold considerable geopolitical value due to their proximity to critical shipping routes and strategic military positions. As we told you earlier, among these islands is Diego Garcia, that's a tropical atoll that hosts a major US military base used for deploying long-range aircraft and Navy vessels. As per reports, with the base playing a critical role in US Indo-Pacific operations, the possibility of Mauritius gaining control over Chagos Islands, it's prompted concerns that China might seek influence in the area, potentially monitoring US military activities with little opposition. Experts said that Mauritius may lack the power to prevent Chinese forces from asserting influence if they gain a foothold in the Chagos waters. Republican leaders have spoken out, emphasizing the security risks. As per reports, Michael McCaul, chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, described Diego Garcia as critical for countering Chinese expansion in the region. Now, he reportedly pressed the Biden administration to ensure that this deal wouldn't undermine US interests in the Indo-Pacific, a region where the United States is already competing with China's growing naval presence. In the Senate, prominent Trump backers like Idaho Senator James Risch have also voiced their displeasure. As per reports, he argued that the agreement plays into China's hands, stating it represents a surrender to Chinese lawfare. Another Republican, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, echoed these concerns, calling this deal quote-unquote alarming. Rubio reportedly highlighted the risk of China exploiting this opportunity to gather intelligence on the Diego Garcia base if Mauritius does not resist Chinese encroachments. Meanwhile, Trump's inner circle is reportedly being advised on possible legal arguments questioning whether Britain should even transfer sovereignty of the islands. As per reports, Trump's stance on this issue isn't public. But should he take a strong position, Britain reportedly may struggle to finalize the treaty with Mauritius. The archipelago, it has a complex history. Located more than 2,000 kilometers south of India, these islands were uninhabited until the Portuguese discovered them in the 16th century. Britain formally took control in the early 19th century, incorporating them into its colonial territories by 1965. During the Cold War, the UK and United States governments agreed to establish a British Indian Ocean territory, creating a base to counter Soviet influence in the region. Diego Garcia, that's the largest atoll, it became the center of a major military operation in 1971, solidifying its role in Western defense strategy. So, if Trump decides against the Chagos handover, it could not only strain UK-US relations but also reshape strategic balances in a region where both China and the United States are vying for influence. All right, we now turn our attention to the latest political crisis in Bangladesh, a nation plunged into uncertainty and unrest since August this year. As per reports, Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh's former Prime Minister, sent a congratulatory message to the US President-elect Donald Trump. This was from the Awami League, calling him a leader of extraordinary qualities and expressing hope for stronger ties between the United States and Bangladesh. But this is where it gets interesting. In the letter, which was signed by the office secretary of the Awami League and posted on the party's verified social media handles, Hasina was identified as quote-unquote the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. The message highlighted her past interactions with Trump and her commitment to advancing mutual interests between the two nations. This situation raises a critical constitutional question. You see, Hasina never formally resigned. She was forced to flee the country. And as per reports, the Bangladesh constitution does not grant the current interim administration that's led by Muhammad Yunus full executive authority. The political vacuum following Hasina's forced departure, it's only led to escalating tensions on the streets of Dhaka, where protests are reportedly now targeting Yunus himself. Just to remind our viewers, in August, Hasina was forced to flee the country amid massive protests over a policy reserving 30% of public sector jobs for families of 1971 war veterans. Following these protests, she reportedly alleged that the United States played a role in her removal, a claim denied by the United States. As per reports, Hasina insisted she could have held her position if she had agreed to US demands to relinquish control of St. Martin's Island, that's a small but strategically significant territory in the Bay of Bengal. St. Martin's Island, famous for its natural beauty, it's been a focal point of controversy, with rumours that the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by Khaleda Zia, intended to sell it to the United States in exchange for political support. Washington firmly dismissed all of these allegations. Now here's the other part to the story. You see, Donald Trump's return to White House, it has introduced further complexities. As per reports, Muhammad Yunus, who now heads Bangladesh's interim government, once publicly criticized Trump in 2016, stating that Trump's election was a quote-unquote dark cloud over the world. As per reports, the friction between Yunus and Trump could complicate diplomatic relations, especially given Trump's recent criticism of the situation in Bangladesh. You see, since Hasina's departure, violence against minority communities in Bangladesh has increased. Minority groups, especially Hindus, are reportedly facing harassment and violence and frequent accounts of looting, property destruction and physical assault. New Delhi has voiced its concerns, urging the Bangladeshi government to protect these communities and counter rising extremism within the country. Amid rising tensions, India condemned the recent attacks on Hindu residents in Bangladesh's Chittagong region, where inflammatory social media posts triggered unrest. On the day of Diwali, Trump also recently spoke out on social media denouncing the violence against Bangladesh's minorities and condemning the country's chaotic state. He labelled the situation in Bangladesh as quote-unquote total chaos and promised to stand by Hindu Americans against what he described as an anti-religion agenda in the United States. As per reports, Trump's comments placed Yunus in a difficult position. Yunus reportedly has close connections with influential figures in the US establishment, particularly Bill and Hillary Clinton. As per reports, Yunus now faces the challenge of navigating a not-so-straightforward diplomatic relationship with the Trump administration. Furthermore, tensions between Yunus and Trump date back to the 2016 US election. I'd mentioned this earlier, when according to reports, Yunus allegedly made a significant donation to the Clinton Foundation ahead of Hillary Clinton's presidential bid. For now, the streets of Bangladesh remain in turmoil, with protests against the Yunus administration growing each day. The government faces mounting pressure to restore stability, address escalating communal violence, and to secure its legitimacy in the eyes of the Bangladeshi people as well as the international community. Let's shift our focus now to Amsterdam, where Israeli football fans came under an apparently organized attack on Thursday night following a match. Dutch security forces appeared helpless as Israeli football fans were ambushed by gangs of mass assailants who shouted, "Free Palestine." Social media has been flooded with videos showing the assailants hunting, beating and harassing Israelis. Riots erupted in the city centre after Dutch football club Ajax beat Maccabi Tel Aviv 5-0 at a UEFA European Conference League match. According to Israeli officials, 10 Israelis were injured in Amsterdam. They said that a number of them have been out of contact with their families following the hours of overnight violence. who was behind the attack? It's difficult to say at this point. But Israeli media reports say that the violence was perpetrated largely by local Muslims and Arabs. They say that hundreds more Israelis are reported besieged in their hotels, fearing that they could be attacked again if they step out.
Fairly well most of the time, but there's been incidents, especially since the war began, that we have seen an increase in violence, and especially around the universities. But most of the time it is completely fine, and there is also a lot of support.
Meanwhile, the Israeli football fans said that the police were too late to act.
No police.
They came really late.
They came too late.
They came when a lot of people were already hurted, injured. Some of them probably go to the hospital. I don't know if they 100 show information if they go to hospitals, but no one can reach them.
Amsterdam Police said 5 people were hospitalized and released by Friday afternoon. The police has also arrested 62 linked to the violence. The Amsterdam Police said that they had started a major investigation into the violent incidents. Security measures were also increased in the city.
Heel goed.
I understand very well that this brings back memories of violent riots, and that for this to happen in Amsterdam is unbearable and indigestible. Last night, not only people were injured, our history, the history of our city has been deeply damaged. Our Jewish life, our Jewish culture is under threat, and they are an indispensable and inalienable part of our city.
Is diep beschadigd.
The leaders of Israel and the Netherlands condemned what they called anti-Semitic attacks. Following the incident, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu directed 2 rescue planes to be sent to Amsterdam. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Dick Schoof, took to X to call the incident unacceptable. Far-right politician Geert Wilders, the leader of the largest party in the Dutch government, also condemned the reported attacks. Meanwhile, other videos show the Israeli football fans also taunting Arabs in Amsterdam with anti-Palestinian chants. Israeli fans could be hurling anti-Palestinian slurs. That could be heard in the video. In video footage circulating on social media, all of this is evident. This points to the high tensions and unrest. Prior to the alleged attacks, pro-Palestinian activists claimed that the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were the first to engage in harassment and violence. They say that it was the Israelis that assaulted Arabs in Amsterdam and vandalized Palestinian flags. In another potential flashpoint linked to football, France are scheduled to face Israel in an international match at the Stade de France in Paris next Thursday. On Friday, following reports of Amsterdam violence, the French government said that the match would go ahead as planned. All right, let's shift our focus then. Taking a significant stride towards achieving self-reliance in defense, the Indian Army has inducted a formidable new weapon, the ASMI machine pistol, underscoring India's ongoing commitment to the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative aimed at establishing self-sufficiency across critical sectors. The Indian Army has integrated 550 units of this indigenously developed machine pistol into its Northern Command. As per reports, this new weapon was developed by Colonel Prasad Bansod of the Indian Army in partnership with the Defence Research and Development Organisation, DRDO. The ASMI machine pistol stands out as a fully make-in-India weapon. Manufactured in Hyderabad by Lokesh Machines, the ASMI reportedly reflects a collective Indian effort to reduce dependency on foreign arms and to meet India's own security needs. While the Army formally announced this new addition on Tuesday, as per reports, the deliveries of the weapon, which is also classified as a submachine gun, had concluded about 3 months prior. ASMI is reportedly compact, robust, it's crafted for close-quarter encounters. Furthermore, ASMI is tailored for intense combat scenarios where speed and precision are paramount. As per reports, the weapon's design, it enhances maneuverability, making it highly effective for close-quarter battles. With the semi-bullpup configuration, the ASMI combines the functionality of both a pistol and a submachine gun, allowing for one-handed operation. And this flexibility reportedly proves crucial for quick responses in confined spaces, especially in fast-moving combat situations. As per reports, the ASMI is built for a high rate of fire, making it effective in suppressing enemy positions in close encounters. And it is engineered with an effective range that suits urban and close quarters operations, providing reliable accuracy and elevating a soldier's effectiveness in varied operational settings. As per reports, the army selected ASMI over the Israeli Uzi and German Heckler, and it was designed, developed and manufactured in less than 3 years. In addition to its use by the Indian Army, this indigenous machine pistol has also reportedly piqued the interest of several state police officers. The National Security Guard, the Assam Rifles and the Border Security Force, indicating its broad appeal across India's defence landscape. As per reports, the Hyderabad-based manufacturer secured an order worth Rs 4.26 crores to supply these pistols to the Indian Army's Northern Command. The weapon is also reportedly engineered to withstand challenging conditions and offers a durability that ensures reliability in varied terrain and weather extremes. This resilience is crucial for the Indian Army given the diverse environments in which they operate. Moreover, the weapon's indigenous design offers customization options as well, enabling adjustments to meet specific operational demands. The introduction of the ASMI into the Indian Army, it's a testament to India's evolving defence industry, one that not only meets international standards but is also tailored to the unique needs of the nation. And this machine pistol is more than just a weapon, it's a symbol of India's capability to defend itself with homegrown technology. All right, and shifting our focus now, is it legal to import Salman Rushdie's controversial book, The Satanic Verses, to India? This is the question that has been puzzling legal experts in India. This after the Delhi High Court suggested this week that the notification banning the novel's import might no longer be valid. Now, why is that? Because the government officials could not locate the original notification paper that banned the book in 1988. The government officials, it seems, may have misplaced the book ban order. The India-born British author's novel was banned by India after some Muslims viewed it as blasphemous. Not just in India, the book had sparked protests worldwide. In fact, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei even issued a fatwa in 1989 calling for Rushdie's assassination. The backlash had forced the Booker Prize-winning author into hiding for nearly a decade. Then in August 2022, about 33 years after the fatwa, Rushdie was stabbed on stage during a lecture in New York. That attack left him blind in one eye and affected the use of one of his hands. Although the book remains officially banned in India, some legal experts now believe it could be imported unless the government reaffirms the ban. The book ban came under scrutiny after Sandeepan Khan, who is a resident of the Indian state of West Bengal, tried to buy this book, only to learn that it was not published in India nor could it be imported. In 2017, Khan filed a right to information request for the official notification banning the book's import, but was sent through a series of departments without finding it. In 2019, Khan took the matter to the Delhi High Court, arguing that the ban impacted his freedom to read. And over 5 years later, government departments repeatedly failed to produce the notification, despite customs having similar records from as far back as 1968. And then finally, on the 5th of November, that's this year, the court declared it had no option but to presume that no such ban notification exists and therefore could not assess its validity. But now this case raises another question. Is a ban valid if there is no official paper to prove it? The answer depends on who you are asking. The court has not clarified if the book could be accessed in India. The court has advised Khan to pursue any legal options to obtain it. If the ban order is not found, then technically the ban does not exist, and that would mean that the book can be imported. But will the government introduce a fresh notification banning the book? It's not clear at the moment. Meanwhile, 76-year-old Rushdie continues to face threats over his outspoken views and continues to criticize the response to his book. Let's shift our focus now in a fascinating new find from Mars. China's Zhurong rover, it has spotted evidence that hints at an ancient coastline, suggesting the red planet may have once been home to a fleeting ocean. The findings published in scientific reports come from Zhurong's explorations in the southern Utopia region, a part of Mars that researchers have long suspected could have held water billions of years ago. Now, since landing in May 2021, Zhurong has been studying soil and mineral deposits in Vastitas Borealis, a broad plain on Mars' northern hemisphere. This area has been hypothesized as an ancient seabed, and now the fine mineral grains found like hydrated silica are adding weight to that theory. According to scientists, these grains appear to align more closely with the shoreline origin than the volcanic processes. The findings suggest that these deposits may have formed from a major flooding event around 3.68 billion years ago. If accurate, the short-lived ocean might have frozen over and vanished approximately 3.42 billion years ago. While this evidence does not confirm an ancient Martian ocean, it does add to the growing body of knowledge hinting at Mars' past. The team hopes that their discoveries will guide future missions, which may delve deeper into the red planet's potential water reservoirs and their role in shaping its geology. All right. If you fear snakes, you need to be aware of another venomous creature that could be a stinging problem in your homes. We're talking about scorpions. Due to growing urbanization and warmer climate, Brazil is living one of its worst nightmares: the thriving population of scorpions that claim many lives each year. The most widely found species in Brazil, it's the Brazilian yellow scorpion. It is considered the most dangerous scorpion in South America, possessing extremely toxic venom. It's feared for the toxic stinger poised atop their tails. It can be identified by their pale yellow legs or yellow-brownish colored trunk. Adult specimens can grow up to 5 to 7 centimeters in length. According to Brazil's health ministry, there were 152 deaths from scorpion stings in Brazil, compared with 140 from snake bites in 2023. And that's an increase from 2019, when 95 deaths by scorpions were recorded. Last year, there were more than 200,000 scorpion sting incidents registered, 250% more than a decade earlier, and an average of nearly 550 stings a day. So why has the Brazilian yellow scorpion become increasingly difficult to control? And what is fueling this high growth rate? Scientists in Sao Paulo blame it on rapid growth of cities, loss of main predators, and increasingly warm environment.
Cities are growing uncontrollably, leading to the loss of the main predators of these animals. There are various birds that would prey on scorpions, as well as geckos, frogs, and opossums, which are animals that would naturally eat scorpions and help control their population. However, in urban areas, these animals do not come close. As the environment is getting warmer, the metabolism of these animals is also increasing. They are more active, consuming more food and reproducing more.
Now, the growing problem has also fueled demand for anti-venom. This has made Brazil's Butantan Institute's anti-venom very important. According to authorities, last year saw more than 11,000 people in Brazil receiving the scorpion anti-venom, mainly in the heavily populated southeast.
It is made from the animal's own venom. The venom is extracted from scorpions and is applied to horses. There is a whole process of purifying the horse's blood, which ultimately results in the final product, these specific serums.
Now, with the demand for anti-venom serums growing in Brazil, it's a wake-up call for the Brazilian government to ensure a balance between rapid urbanization and protecting the country's biodiversity. All right, let's shift our focus. Cuba faces a fresh crisis after Hurricane Rafael, that's a Category 3 storm, tore through the western part of the island, leaving widespread devastation and a nation plunged into darkness. Our next story explains how the cash-strapped island has been hit hard, which was still reeling from a recent blackout and a previous deadly storm. Take a look. Cuba is once again facing the wrath of nature. In just 2.5 hours, Hurricane Rafael ripped across the landscape, destroying homes, uprooting trees and leaving 10 million people without power. Artemisa province, Havana's key agricultural hub, bore the brunt of the hurricane's ferocity.
Imagine what my husband and my daughter went through here. The metal roof sheets were flying off. When everything calmed down a bit, we managed to get out of here. We were very scared. We had never been through a storm inside a house before. The important thing is that we are alive.
Powerful winds leveled high-tension power lines along the main highway, while fallen trees blocked roads and floodwaters engulfed the provincial capital. Locals say that they have never witnessed such a ferocious storm.
I'm going to speak plainly. I've never seen this in 61 years. Yesterday was my birthday and I had a very sad birthday because I saw the stadium falling apart, the towers falling down and the roof tiles flying. Unbelievable. I have never seen it in my life ever.
Authorities evacuated over 70,000 residents from the Artemisa and neighboring Pinar del Rio as the storm battered these vulnerable regions. For many, the evacuation is a familiar, bitter reality as they fled homes that would likely face ruin. In Batanamo, a low-lying coastal city, often hit by tropical storms, residents struggle through flooded streets, salvaging whatever belongings they could from crumbling homes.
This happens frequently here. Now we have these houses collapsed and we wait for the housing department to come and see all that happened and see how they will solve this problem for the community.
The island's already fragile power grid, which had suffered multiple collapses just 2 weeks prior, was dealt a severe blow, bringing essential services to a halt. Cuban officials are racing to restore electricity in the east, yet the impact is deep and recovery is slow. As Rafael weakens over the Gulf, Cuba's troubles remain acute. The storm's destruction lays bare a struggling infrastructure, a fragile grid, and an economy stretched thin. With only partial aid in sight, Cuba's recovery from the hurricane will likely be long and arduous, leaving millions without basic power or resources in the days ahead. Bureau Report WION, World is One. And with that, we call it a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. News and updates continue on the other side on WION, World is One. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
This week on Check It Out, we show you the world's first wooden satellite. We tell you how Taiwan is preparing the next generation of drone developers. And find out why teenagers want to ditch their smartphones. This and more on WION, World is One at these times.